What I love about this summit is the theme is you've asked prominent tech leaders to nominate the next generation of tech leaders. You know, why did you decide to do it that way, and why do you think it's been so impactful?
Well, you know, we had a whole bunch of conversations of how do you do a list or how do you celebrate. If you just choose the people who helped shape the last 25 years, it's a little bit less fun. And if you
it's always going to be the same people, right?
It's going to be the same people. And if you just choose the people who are going to shape the next 25 years, no one's ever heard of them, right? So how do you have a big event? So we kind of came upon this as a way of looking backwards and looking forwards.
Well, and so you have some unexpected names that people may not have heard of.
Plenty.
Jiwoo Lee, an 18-year-old undergrad working on DNA sequencing. She gave a very powerful speech.
Blew the audience
and
away.
then reminded us all that she was turning 19 years old in a day. Fei Li, an AI professor at Stanford, a young woman who's working on digital currency at MIT. You know, how do you choose these people, but also not overhype things that will ultimately not turn out?
I know, to me, an interesting
Such a
test.
risk in technology.
When you look back in 2043, how many of these people, you know, actually are still known? I mean, we've kind of offloaded that decision, right? Because we asked each of our icons, you know, we said to Johnny Ive, pick somebody yourself. So if, you know, it turns out their picks don't have a huge influence, that's on them.
So Jeff Bezos was on stage, and the cover story, for this celebration is Blue Origin and space, and it's interesting to hear him talk about you know, space as it is the most important thing he believes he is working on, and it is the thing which he is most passionate about, and yet he's also working on all of these other things.
Right.
You know, how do you see the space race evolving with these tech billionaires at the helm?
Yeah, it's curious, right? That some of the most influential, richest people in the world, they're fixated on a similar idea. They're competing in similar ways. But to me, it's all positive. There's no harm that comes out of the effort to figure out how to get humans into space. You know, Lord knows we might need it in not so long, and there's a lot of incredible R&D that's coming along. So I'm thrilled that Elon's doing SpaceX and Bezos is doing Blue Origin.
Now, you've been covering tech for a long time, and it seems like we're coming out of a period of tech adulation and into a period of tech hating, you know, to put it quite frankly, and companies like Facebook and Google are really having a reckoning. Do you believe this is going to be a prolonged period of time?
Yeah, it's one of the most interesting questions that somebody who's editor of Wired faces, because our history is so much on optimism and belief that these companies are not necessarily, but you know, making the world a better place, which I agree with. I do think that technology makes our lives richer in lots of ways, but you also have to have clear-eyed critiques. And so we have gone into a period of the tech utopians have become tech optimists. The tech optimists have become neutral. The people who are neutral have become real pessimists. I think right now we need to have a strong critique of what's happening, but we can't overdo it into cynicism and hatred, because that's going to undermine one of the most important things in the American economy. And one other point I'll say about that, which is the biggest thing happening in tech right now is the bifurcation of the US technology sphere and the Chinese technology sphere. And there's a real risk that if they head off in different directions, you're going to end up with a very strange and risky world economy. And what you don't want is you don't want America strangling its tech companies at the same time China's building a very synergistic relationship with their tech companies. You want growth all the way around and connectedness.
You wrote a cover story about Facebook with a controversial image of Mark Zuckerberg beaten and bloodied on the cover.
But smiling, but yes, beaten and bloodied.
Do you think that Facebook can recover and regain the glory that it once had? Do users actually care as much about privacy and trust as we journalists seem to believe they do?
Those are really interesting, complicated, and hard questions. I don't think that Facebook will ever go back to where they were pre-2016 election. I don't think they'll ever have. I think, well, who can say never, right? I mean, they've only been around for, you know, a few years, my God. This has been a real hit to them. But I also think that the people inside of Facebook are actually trying to fix it. They're trying to figure out whether the algorithm can change in a way that this doesn't happen again. Obviously, they're hiring tons of people who work on security to make sure that the system can't be hacked again. And I think that some of the sort of visceral negativity towards Facebook has blinded people to what they're actually trying to do. So I both think that real damage has been done, but I also think that they're serious about correcting some of the mistakes they made.
Some of the blowback has come from the founders of companies that Facebook bought. Both of the WhatsApp founders have left. Both of the Instagram founders have left. Kevin Systrom was here on stage. talking about this. I mean.
And obviously Sean Parker and Sean Paul were like
Sean
brought some of the
also very critical of Facebook and critical of sort this assumption that they're doing good in the world. Is Facebook really doing the right thing?
Well, I mean, the question of whether Facebook is sort of net positive, net negative for the world is, an impossible one to answer. I do think that the critique has been healthy, and that there's different levels of critique from the people who've left, right? The founders of WhatsApp who've been
#delete Facebook.
Blistered Facebook, right? That Brian Acton interview a couple weeks ago. Kevin Systrom on stage today was much calmer and whether he's dodging what he really feels or whether he really doesn't genuinely feel hostility towards Mark Zuckerberg, we'll learn as time passes. But I do think there are different levels of critique from the people who've left Facebook.